Hey everyone, ready to kick that inner critic to the curb and build some real self-confidence?
We've got just the deep dive for you.
Two awesome sources today, an article from the National Wellness and Fitness Association.
And a research paper all about, you guessed it.
Silencing that inner critic.
We'll explore its roots.
How it messes with us.
And the best part...
Practical strategies to take back control.
Yeah.
So, what exactly is this inner critic? I mean, we all have moments of doubt, right?
Sure, but the inner critic is like that voice that just won't quit.
Yeah.
Always judging, putting you down.
Ugh, I know that voice.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? This research paper links it to something called
Interjected what?
introjected parental criticism.
Okay, now you have to explain that one.
Basically, it means we absorb all that criticism we got early on.
Like from parents.
Exactly. Parents, teachers.
Even if they didn't mean to be harsh.
Even then, those messages can get stuck in our subconscious.
Wow. So they really shape how we see ourselves.
They really do.
So this inner critic thing, it can become a real problem.
You're not kidding.
The research actually links it to low self-esteem,
Oh, no.
anxiety,
Makes sense.
even tougher mental health stuff like depression.
Okay, we definitely can't ignore this.
Nope,
So how do we tackle it? The NWFA article had some good tips, right?
it did. They say the key is to spot those negative thought patterns.
Like becoming aware of them.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
then actively questioning them.
So it's like, hold on a minute, inner critic, is that even true?
Exactly. The NWFA suggests putting those thoughts on trial.
I like that.
Ask yourself, what evidence supports this? What have I accomplished,
So basically counter that negativity with facts.
And a more balanced view.
Love it. It's like taking those negative thoughts to court. Objection, Your Honor, no evidence.
Exactly.
That's pretty good.
And another thing the NWFA emphasizes is setting realistic goals.
Because if we aim too high,
It's easy to get overwhelmed and feel defeated.
so break it down into smaller steps.
That's the idea.
Nice.
Each little win builds confidence.
Makes you feel like you can actually do it.
Exactly.
Okay, feeling a bit more empowered already.
Awesome.
But sometimes that inner critic just slams your self-esteem.
Absolutely. And that's where self-worth comes in.
Okay, how so?
The NWFA reminds us that we all have value just for being us.
I love that.
You are enough just as you are, imperfections and all.
It's so easy to compare yourself to others and feel like you don't measure up.
It is, but we all have unique strengths that make us valuable.
So true.
And you know what can help with that?
What?
Gratitude.
Okay, I gotta be honest. I always thought gratitude journals were kind of cheesy.
Aha, I get it.
But how does just being grateful actually help silence that inner critic?
Well, the NWFA explains that when you focus on what's good, it changes your brain.
Seriously?
You start seeing the world in a more positive way.
So like training your brain to see the glass half full.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And get this, the research paper actually dives into the science of it.
No way.
It shows that gratitude can quiet the brain areas linked to self-criticism.
Wow, so it's not just some feel-good thing. There's actual science behind it.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I'm starting to see how powerful this gratitude thing can be.
It is. And along with that, both sources say focus on your strengths.
Your strengths.
What are you good at? What are your passions? Acknowledge them and use them more.
I think we get so caught up in what we're not good at that we forget about the things we are good at.
It's true. And when you're using your strengths, you feel more confident.
More confident, more fulfilled.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Okay, before we run out of time,
Sure.
let's talk about perfectionism.
Ooh, big one.
I think it's a struggle for so many people,
Absolutely.
myself included.
Well, the NWFA is clear on this.
What's that?
It's okay not to be perfect.
Easier said than done.
I know, but embracing imperfection is key to silencing that inner critic.
And to living a more authentic life.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do you actually let go of that need to be perfect? It's everywhere these days.
Well, the NWFA says shift your focus from being flawless to celebrating your effort.
So from being perfect to just trying your best.
Yeah. See, making mistakes is part of being human.
It's how we learn.
Exactly.
So we're changing what success means.
From flawless to just making progress.
I like that.
Because when we aim for perfection, we set ourselves up to fail.
And that just feeds the inner critic.
Exactly. But when we focus on progress, we create a more supportive environment.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Me too.
Challenging negative thoughts.
Yes.
Practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
Focusing on strengths.
Keep going.
Embracing imperfection.
It's like building a whole new mindset, a more compassionate way of treating ourselves.
It really is. And I bet there's even more to this.
Oh, yeah. In the next part, we'll explore some more advanced techniques for silencing that inner critic and finding true self-compassion.
Can't wait.
Welcome back. Ready for more on taming that inner critic and boosting your confidence?
Absolutely. We've uncovered some great stuff
Oh,
already,
yeah.
like how to challenge those negative thoughts. But you mentioned some more advanced techniques.
I did. And one powerful one is
Yeah.
reframing,
Reframing our experiences.
especially our failures. It's about changing the story we tell ourselves.
Okay, so like when we mess up.
Exactly. That inner critic jumps right in. I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. It's waiting for us to stumble.
It's like my inner critic has front row seats to every single one of my mistakes.
Haha, I get it. But we can change that narrative.
Really?
Instead of seeing those moments as proof that we're flawed, we can choose to see them as
What?
opportunities for growth. You know, the NWFA talks about embracing failure as part of the journey.
I like that.
And the research paper dives into the science of it. They call it cognitive reframing.
Cognitive reframing. Sounds intense.
It's actually pretty cool. It basically means that when we consciously choose to reframe negative thoughts, we can actually rewire our brains to react differently to challenges.
So we're not stuck in that cycle of self-criticism.
Exactly. And the research even shows that people who practice this, they have less activity in the brain areas linked to stress and negative emotions.
Wow. So it's not just wishful thinking. We can actually change our thought patterns.
Pretty amazing, right?
It is. But how do you actually do this reframing thing? It still sounds a bit abstract.
It's simpler than you think. The first step is awareness. You have to catch yourself when you're being self-critical.
So become a thought detective.
Exactly. Pay attention to what's going on in your head. Then you can start challenging those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this even true? Is there another way to see this?
So instead of, I bombed that presentation, I'm so bad at this,
Right.
it's more like, okay, the presentation didn't go as planned. What can I learn from this?
Exactly. You're turning those negative thoughts into opportunities for growth.
It's like shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
You got it. And that shift can impact everything, your confidence, your resilience, even your willingness to take risks.
Because you're not so afraid of failing anymore.
Exactly.
This ties back to what we were saying about embracing imperfection.
It all connects.
Focusing on progress, not perfection.
And the research actually shows that this kind of reframing can actually reduce how often you have those self-critical thoughts.
Seriously.
It's like you're creating a more positive space in your mind.
Okay. I'm definitely going to try this reframing technique.
I think you'll be amazed by how much it can help.
It's so empowering to know we can actually rewire our brains.
It really is.
Okay.
And speaking of rewiring our brains,
Oh, what now?
mindfulness, both sources talk about it.
Mindfulness. I've heard the word, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
It's basically training your attention to be present in the moment.
Okay.
You notice your thoughts and feelings without judging them.
So you're like an observer of your own mind.
Exactly. You're not getting swept away by every thought or emotion.
So instead of getting sucked into that inner critic's negativity,
You can just let those thoughts pass by.
that's a good way to put it.
You create space between you and your thoughts so you're not so reactive to them.
It's like those thoughts are clouds just floating by.
I love that analogy. And the research actually shows that mindfulness can boost self-acceptance and reduce rumination.
Rumination.
It's that tendency to dwell on negative thoughts.
Oh yeah, I do that way too much.
We all do it. But the less we ruminate, the less power those thoughts have over us.
Makes sense. So even if I'm not a meditation master, I can still benefit from mindfulness.
Absolutely. And the best part is you can practice it anywhere, anytime.
Really? Like how?
Even just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath can make a difference. Notice the sensations, the rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of the air.
Wow, okay, I can try that.
It's about bringing your attention to the present moment, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
And that can help us quiet those negative thoughts.
Over time, yes,
Yeah.
you'll cultivate a more peaceful and accepting inner state.
I like the sound of that. So we got reframing mindfulness.
Uh-huh. What else?
Oh yeah. Positive affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
The NWFA mentioned those for countering negative self-talk. How do those work exactly?
Think of them like little boosts of self-love that you plant in your mind. By repeating positive statements about yourself, you can actually start to change your beliefs.
So instead of listening to that inner critic,
You choose to focus on your strengths and affirm your worth.
I could see how that would help.
And guess what? The research shows that affirmations activate the reward centers in your brain.
Seriously.
It's true. They actually increase feelings of self-worth and reduce stress.
So those gratitude journals and affirmations might not be so cheesy after all.
Nope. They can be really powerful tools for creating a more positive inner world.
I'm starting to believe it.
The key is to choose affirmations that resonate with you and to repeat them regularly.
Got it. So it's about feeding our minds with the thoughts we want to believe.
Exactly. You're taking back control from that inner critic.
This is all so empowering. I'm starting to see how these techniques can really change how we feel about ourselves.
It's true. And when we combine them reframing mindfulness, positive affirmations,
Yeah.
we create a powerful force for change.
This has been amazing. But before we go, are there any roadblocks we should be aware of as we start this journey of self-discovery?
That's a great question. And the research paper does mention a few common challenges.
Like what?
One of the biggest is dealing with those deeply ingrained patterns of self-criticism.
So even when we're trying to change those old habits, can be hard to break.
It's like trying to create a new path in a forest. It takes time and effort to reprogram those automatic negative thoughts.
Especially if they're coming from childhood experiences.
It can be tough, but the good news is that our brains are adaptable. We can change those thoughts and beliefs even if they've been there for years.
That's good to know. Persistence is key then. What other barriers should we watch out for?
Another one is the fear of losing motivation.
Losing motivation.
Some people worry that if they're not being self-critical, they'll lose their drive to improve.
So they think they need that inner critic to push them.
Exactly. But here's the thing, self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that you're human. You make mistakes, and it's okay.
But doesn't that make you complacent?
Not at all. Actually, when we're kinder to ourselves, we're more motivated to grow.
Interesting. So it's not about beating ourselves up to get things done.
Nope. And the research shows that self-compassion is linked to higher motivation and resilience.
Wow. So being kind to ourselves actually makes us more likely to succeed.
It's counterintuitive, but it's true.
I like that. It's like you attract more bees with honey than with vinegar.
Exactly. And one last barrier to watch out for is
What's that?
a lack of awareness. Some people are so used to negative self-talk that they don't even realize they're doing it.
So their inner critic is running the show without them even knowing it.
It happens. That's why the first step is always awareness. Start paying attention to your thoughts. Notice when those critical voices pop up.
And once we're aware of them, we can start to change them.
Exactly. You're shining a light on those hidden beliefs, and then you can choose to replace them with more empowering thoughts.
I like that. So it's all about awareness, effort, and choosing kindness over judgment.
And that leads us to something really exciting, embracing our authentic selves.
Okay. So we're back.
Ready to connect those dots.
Yeah. Between silencing that inner critic and embracing our authentic selves.
It's all about creating space for your true self to shine.
That's like that.
That unfiltered, unafraid you.
Okay. I'm listening.
Yeah.
But how exactly does silencing the inner critic lead to a more authentic life?
Imagine you're constantly bombarded with self-criticism.
Yeah.
It's like you're wearing a mask trying to be who you think you should be.
Instead of who you really are.
Exactly. The inner critic keeps us hidden, holding us back.
So it's not just about feeling good, it's about being true to yourself.
It is. Every time that inner critic puts you down, it chips away at your self-acceptance.
And that makes it harder to connect with others.
It does. Those negative thoughts become a barrier to genuine connection.
So it's like the inner critic is building walls around us, keeping us from really being seen.
That's a great way to put it. But when we silence that critic, we start to tear those walls down.
We embrace all parts of ourselves.
The good, the bad, the messy, the parts we might have tried to hide.
It's about accepting ourselves completely.
Imperfections and all.
I love that.
Yeah.
But how does that actually play out in our lives? How does embracing our authentic selves change things?
It changes everything. Think about it when you're not constantly second-guessing yourself or worrying about what others think.
Yeah.
You're free to be your most genuine self.
Yeah.
And that authenticity is magnetic.
People are drawn to that.
It creates deeper, more meaningful connections.
It's like when you meet someone who's totally comfortable with who they are. You can just feel it,
It's a different kind of energy.
and it makes you want to be around them.
Exactly. And think about what happens when you want to pursue your passions.
What do you mean?
When you're not being held back by self-doubt, you're more likely to take risks to try new things.
You're not afraid to go after what you really want.
Exactly. You give yourself permission to dream bigger and to actually go for it.
That's when you find your true purpose.
Often. Yes. When we're aligned with our authentic selves and doing work that's meaningful,
It all just clicks into place.
it does. So it's not just about silencing the inner critic. It's about creating a life that's true to who you are.
This is pretty amazing.
It is, and it all begins with that inner work with being kinder to yourself.
This reminds me of what we were saying about self-care.
Yes, it's all connected.
When we take care of ourselves, we create space for our authentic selves to emerge.
Self-care is a form of self-love. It's about nourishing your mind, body, and spirit.
And you mentioned that it looks different for everyone.
It does. It's not about following some formula. It's about finding what works for you.
So what replenishes you? What makes you feel good?
Exactly. Whether it's being in nature, listening to music, meditating.
Even just taking a few minutes to breathe.
It's about making choices that support your well-being.
And sometimes that means saying no to things that drain you,
Absolutely. Setting boundaries is a huge part of self-care.
so you can protect your energy.
And when you prioritize self-care, it becomes easier to quiet that inner critic.
It's like you're creating a more fertile ground for your true self to blossom.
I love that image. You're planting seeds of self-love and self-acceptance and then nurturing them.
Okay, I'm ready to put this into practice. Any tips on how to actually start living more authentically?
Start by paying attention to that inner dialogue. Notice those critical thoughts as they come up.
So become aware of the inner critic's voice.
Yes. And then challenge those thoughts with more compassionate ones.
So instead of judging myself,
You respond with kindness and understanding.
it's like talking to yourself like you'd talk to a good friend.
Exactly. Would you berate a friend for making a mistake? Of course not. You'd offer support and encouragement. Do the same for yourself.
That's a good point. We're often way harder on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else.
And another thing you can do is surround yourself with supportive people.
People who lift you up.
People who believe in you and encourage you to be yourself.
Because if you're constantly around negativity,
It's going to be that much harder to silence your own inner critic.
makes sense. It's like trying to grow a flower in a dark basement.
You need sunshine and nourishment to thrive.
So choose your company wisely.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things. Step outside your comfort zone. See what sparks joy.
Embrace that growth mindset.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes along the way.
It's all part of the process.
So keep trying, keep exploring, keep growing.
I love that. And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Remember, you are not alone in this journey. We all have that inner critic. But with awareness, effort, and a little bit of kindness, we can learn to quiet it and live more authentically.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on self-confidence and authenticity.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, the most important tool is your own self-compassion. Be kind to yourself, celebrate your progress, and never give up on becoming your most authentic self.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope this deep dive has empowered you to challenge those negative thoughts, cultivate self-love, and live a life that reflects the amazing person you are.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep shining bright.